This podcast is brought to you by the School of Advanced Study, University of London.
I feel like my report from the breakout session might be a little superficial in comparison to the previous two, but I'm going to give it a go. I think I feel a little bit underprepared just because this extract, which is from an heureux, événement, a happy event by Éliette Abécassis, is short, but it's rich, and we talked about a lot in our 1 hour session. So this is an apology in advance to those of you who were there. I agree with you already that I didn't cover what you said appropriately. Okay. So I assume most of us have read the extract, so we know that it's a description from the first person perspective of Barbara of an encounter between herself and another mother who's her neighbour. And moreover, it's a confrontation in many ways between Barbara as the mother of one child, a young child, and her neighbour as an Orthodox Jewish mother of 10 children. So we can already see that there are contrasts being played on here. Our discussion of the nature of their conversation revealed some of the ways in which the Orthodox Jewish mother, who is not named in the extract, can be read as both radically different to and similar to Barbara. So thanks to Julie's contextualization of the extract, we knew in our discussion that contrary to the book's titular promise of the happiness of being a mother, Barbara's experiences have actually been difficult and painful. They're a contrast to popular representations of motherhood that she's encountered. So we read in the extract about Barbara's encounter with her religious neighbour, who is later on, although not in this extract, named as Miriam. So I'll refer to her as Miriam because it's shorter. And this encounter is, I think, a different but maybe related constellation of contrasts between her reality and the ideal mother. So Barbara describes meeting Miriam in a bedroom, accompanied by all of her 10 children, and she's breastfeeding her youngest child. And she appears to have a halo, thanks to a red headscarf. All the children are described as angelic. They have a seraphic gaze. No reference is made to what might well be a messy and noisy room containing 10 children under the age of 12. So what we get is a description of a scene presenting, I think, sacralized motherhood. It's an icon of motherhood, not necessarily close to reality. So it's not clear, I think, to what extent this ideal of motherhood is consciously recognized by Barbara, because there's not much reflection in the extract. But in it, the text, the ideal of motherhood is bound up with the Orthodox Jewish identity and practices of the family. So while Miriam represents an ideal for Barbara, which is evident in the sense of guilt that pervades the text, Barbara is implicitly also judging Miriam. Miriam is described as physically surrounded, squeezed, covered. Those are the words that Julie used in your translation. So she is constrained and contained, which maybe is an obvious interpretation, but constrained by who or by what? So on the basic sort of physical containment, she's surrounded by her children and a bedroom, and then maybe by her husband and by extension their religion. So remembering that what we read is Barbara's perception of Miriam, it's not necessarily the case that a woman like Miriam is oppressed by her high fertility rate or her membership of a strict religious group. At least I think that that's in question. But for Barbara, who is a non-practicing Jewish woman, her confrontation with Miriam is both an encounter with an apparently extremely capable mother and an encounter with an overburdened, trapped woman. And this raises questions for Barbara that are religious in nature. So at the end of the extract, how many children God might will any particular woman to have. At the same time, she's wondering at Miriam's situation and interrogating her, sometimes without verbalizing her interrogation. So Barbara's narrative suggests questions about the best way to be a mother. At the end of the extract, she exclaims, a little bit surprisingly, given what's gone before, that this Orthodox Jewish sect maybe have found the solution to the best way to live, the best way to parent, apparently. And as Julie astutely pointed out in our discussion, this is, I think, the overarching theme that we agreed on, is that the icon of motherhood as represented by Miriam in this extract is generative of angst for Barbara. So it reveals, or rather, Barbara's reflection in response to Miriam is a reflection of her own shortcomings as she perceives them as a mother. Yeah, this is where I run out of words. Although not actually, I have lots and lots of notes that I didn't have time to process. So I'm just going to finish with bullet points, really. Something that Sheridan said, I think, hope I've not misquoting you, was that these two women, Barbara and Miriam, seem to find common ground in their ambivalence about motherhood, although they're approaching that ambivalence from different backgrounds. Their shared sense of uncertainty about their relationships with their husbands, with their sexuality, with the future as their children get older, maybe, was a place where they found common ground, and that perhaps this is illustrative of ambivalence as the natural state of motherhood. And I think the point that I would like to finish with, and again, apologies for not being able to express this more eloquently just because of the time constraints. We talked a lot about agency, and this is where I think the research question number 7, which was how do mothers' religious or spiritual beliefs impact on their mothering and on their sense of self as mothers? We didn't come up with an answer. I mean, what is the answer? But it was apparent that we were struggling as we were reading this with, on the one hand, identifying with Barbara as a kind of secular Western woman with certain expectations, and her surprise at Miriam having all these children was something that we shared, and that the sort of the sense of judging Miriam as oppressed or as struggling because of that was something that we expected. And then reflecting on the kind of value judgments and the assumptions that are inherent in that reading, questioning whether in fact Miriam might be exercising her agency in following these commandments of this Orthodox Jewish sect, whether having as many children as God wills is actually just an expression, or not just, is an expression of a similar choice that another woman might make without framing it in this Orthodox Jewish language. Thanks.